Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Mystics Show. Hello, hello. Our mission here is to help you turn whatever you desire into real-life manifestations by sharing our revolutionary technology to make that happen for you. We bring you such cutting-edge information through our resident wizard, Peter Schenk, and also through such magical guests each week that are really making a difference to improve our lives on a variety of levels. I am your co-host, along with the founder of the program, the modern day mystic himself, Peter Schenk. Peter, how are you?
Tana, I'm doing great. It's great to be back after a couple-week break. Ready?
Yes, it is. Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely mind-blowing guests tonight, and we have a special surprise for the listening audience a little bit later.
Right on. So, how about we get to this? And I, of course, want to introduce Dr. Amit Goswami, okay? And Dr. Amit Goswami served as a full professor at the University of Oregon's Department of Physics from 1968 through 1997. He was currently a pioneer of the new paradigm of science called Science Within Consciousness, an idea he explicates in his seminal book, The Self-Aware Universe, where he also solves the quantum measurement problem, elucidating the famous observer effect. Since then, he has written other popular books based on his research on quantum physics and consciousness. Such titles include The Visionary Window, Physics of the Soul, The Quantum Doctor, Creative Involvement, God is Not Dead, How Quantum Activism Can Save Civilization, Quantum Creativity, Think Quantum, Be Creative, and his newest book, Quantum Economics, Unblocking the Power of an Economic of Consciousness. In his private life, Dr. Goswami is a practitioner of spirituality and transformation. He calls himself a quantum activist. He appeared in the film What the Bleep Do We Know? And its sequel, Down the Rabbit Hole, as well as documentaries Dalai Lama Renaissance and the award-winning The Quantum Activist.
I'm just a modern day mystic. Everyone in the MDM style, please take out a glass of water. We're going to do a quick blessing before we kick off the show and introduce our guest. Left hand over the glass of water about 3 inches and spread your fingers. In a minute, you'll feel the energy running down through your hand into the water. Again, this is just a general blessing. Get everyone in a feel-good mood for the show. Everyone put your attention on the water and repeat the words out loud. I honor the space in which you exist. Energy that is in physical form or non-physical form would do anything for you as long as you acknowledge its existence, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're programming the water with goodwill for the MDM show. Everyone, please go ahead and drink as much as you want and notice the taste and the texture difference, and then just allow the energy to flow through your body. What the bleep do we know? That tastes great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Okay, so Dr. Goswami, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
Welcome to the MDM show. I'm doing fantastic. We are honored to have you on the show this evening with us. We have a lot of people that are fascinated with your work. So please, sir, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, just as you said, you are just a mystic. Similarly, I'm just a quantum physicist, really nothing special. But I did solve the quantum measurement problem, which gave us this new fantastic worldview which integrates science and spirituality. And of course, that is why I'm here to talk with you.
So did you have an awakening experience at some point during your studies, or?
I mean, one can call it an awakening. I mean, it happened in 2 stages. The first one was in 1973. I was at a conference and I came face to face with my negative emotions. What happened was I was invited to give a talk. I did. But rest of the day, I felt that I was inadequate. I felt jealous of other speakers and how they are getting attention and I'm not getting any. And this kind of jealousy persisted even at a party in the evening where, again, I was constantly jealous of other males getting more attention from the female half of the party. And it just became so ridiculous. I found at one point, 1 a.m., that I finished my entire packet of Toms, and that's it. And so I got disgusted with myself and went outside. Fortunately, the outside was cool. It was on the side of an ocean. So the Pacific just sent me a blessing in the form of cool air. And a thought came all of a sudden, why do I live this way? And the conviction came that I don't have to live this way. I can integrate my life with work and between work and personal life, and I can be happy. I can do happy physics. So I looked for happy physics for a while, and one thing led to another. And then a second awakening, you might say, in 1985, where I was talking to a mystic, arguing with him about the nature of reality. And you know how mystics say things like, there is nothing but God, which you did, which is actually a Sufi saying. I knew it.
I never said that.
And this time I heard it very differently. I heard it as the thought came, consciousness is the ground of all being, and that is the solution of quantum measurement problem. So that's how it all started happening.
That's fascinating because I very much had an awakening experience like that. Mine happened in one stage and happened at the speed of thought. My entire professional career has been in technology. Worked on Wall Street for 20 years in technology. During that time, about 12 years ago, I kind of got bumped on the head with an apple, if you will, which completely changed my mode of thinking. And I was propelled to want to help people on a grand scale. And I started doing energy work with people and very quickly realized that I could reach more masses if I used my schooling in engineering and my gift for writing software and shared my gifts with the world. And actually a little bit later tonight on the show, we're going to demonstrate Aquaware 5, which is my flagship product. And we're going to give some of the people on the call a little bit of a taste of what it's capable of doing. So Amit, can you please describe to the listening audience what quantum physics is and all about?
Well, the fundamental lesson of quantum physics is the mind-boggling fact itself. Experimentally verified, so nobody can debate about it. Quantum objects, which means all objects in that we experience. All objects of experience are waves of possibility. They actually are waves of possibility. That's their real being. When we observe them, they become particles of actuality. So what we call reality or actuality, manifest reality, that is the result of consciousness looking at the possibilities. And of course, the observer himself or herself starts as a quantum possibility as well. So it is the act of what we call the event of collapse in quantum jargon, this transformation of waves into particle. That event is what produces not only the particle that we see, but us, ourselves, the observer himself or herself, that identity, the manifestation of brain with an identity, that brain is an I, that comes out of the process of quantum measurement itself. So the entire answer, when you get it, when I teach it at a workshop, many people just get the awakening experience of the kind that I had, because it's very powerful. It's very powerful to see that we create the reality, manifest reality of our experience by our choice. And just notice the worldview change that, of course, you are teaching it, so you know that this already, but the audience, really any person who can go through this experience of understanding what happens in a quantum measurement, how we literally create reality by that act, will be transformed.
So when I explain people the properties that govern the software and how it works, it's very, very simple. I don't go into the mechanics per se on a mathematical level of how quantum works, but basically what I tell people is everything is made up of energy, and the energy is all interconnected. And that interconnectedness is what you would coin the quantum realm. And in that plane of existence, where you put your attention, you can actually send an intention to. And that's the properties that govern aquaware. So when I explain it to people, when you want to structure water or program water, the glass of water does not need to be a glass of water, next to the computer, or it can be a case of water downstairs in the refrigerator, or a body of water on the other side of the planet, or a cup of coffee on Mars. Because when you're dealing with those, with the field of quantum, it's everywhere and it's nowhere. And my understanding has always been there is no past and there is no future. There's only the now, and that's our consciousness as we move through it. And
only the event in our consciousness, correct?
Exactly.
That is what we call the eternal present.
And
go ahead.
And what I tell people is, in order to wrap your head around what I've created, you have to really, unlimit your thinking, thereby unlimiting your potential. And you always have to approach the technology with a childlike mind, because, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, is a child, and it doesn't understand perceptual reality the way me and you do, because it doesn't have to. It understands everything at the highest order of vibration and love. And that's, so in order for you really to understand how the software works, you have to unlearn everything you've ever learned for the real learning to begin. And that's basically your conditioning through life. A child, till the age of 9 or 10 months, views everything in the world as magical. Everything is magical. And as we get older,
it's a very good teaching. Only some caveats have to be added with science. This is the part where science and the mystics do differ a little. Mystics are interested in getting people right away to wake up to this reality of the present centeredness. That the reality is really, there is no past and there is no future. This kind of thing. Whereas in science, what we say is that, well, the manifestation obviously matters to ordinary people and how they live. And it takes a while to lose interest in the world enough to investigate the true nature of reality, the ultimate nature of reality. And therefore, why don't we take the lesson of the ultimate nature of reality and apply it to the world, and change the world so that the world will be conducive to experiencing the ultimate nature once in a while, so that we become more happy, more loving, more just, more appreciator of beauty, more experiencer of abundance, instead of this lack that we create in our economy today. This is the kind of mindset we try to create. In other words, the scientist approach is that, okay, we can talk about past and the future in some sense, but we have to be very careful not doing it in an unhappy way that people create past and the future. Instead, we can do it in a happy way. And if we do that, then the passage from the mundane reality to the sacred reality will become so smooth that people will be noticing no boundaries.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said that better myself. So can you explain what the science within consciousness is, please?
Well, that's precisely what we call the science within consciousness, the way to do it. So how do you do it? Well, first of all, ordinary science only recognizes matter. Matter is the only thing that makes up reality according to that view, which of course leaves out basically the bulk of the human being, because we are obviously not just matter. We have mind, we have energies that you talk about, non-physical energies, which I call vital energy, energy of life. That's a non-physical energy. And then we have mental meaning that gives meaning to our life. We are thinking being. Without thought, can you imagine a human being? Without thought and creative thought. And then we have the values. We have the archetypal values that Plato called archetypes, which we intuit, love, beauty. I already mentioned quite a few: abundance, goodness, justice. All these are archetypal values that we covet. And only when we investigate these things, the soul level of our mind is created. Otherwise, mind at the level that we ordinarily investigate has meaning, but the meanings are basically mundane. Whereas when we investigate the archetypes, then we create what traditionally spiritual traditions call the soul, which is a very important aspect of ourselves once we wake up to this reality beyond matter, reality of energies, mind, and the values.
Absolutely.
Now, so the science within consciousness is the science of this reality, science of this extra things that we add to matter. And it does not exclude matter, but matter is recognized as just the vehicle for making representations of all the subtle aspects of ourselves into our brain and the body.
What is the subtle consciousness then?
Subtle consciousness is then those aspects of consciousness that is beyond matter. So matter is called the gross aspect of consciousness, and vital energies, mind, and these archetypal values that make up the subtle aspects of consciousness.
So, how did you solve the quantum measurement problem? And more importantly, what is that?
Okay, so the idea is that, quantum objects are objects of possibility. And then what happens in an act of measurement? When I measure, I go into the laboratory and I'm measuring an electron. I'm measuring an electron. Usually it takes an amplifying apparatus. It's called an electron detector. A Geiger counter, people have seen it, those things that go tick, tick, tick if you put it in front of radioactive material.
I thought if you just started to glow, then you would be able to tell if it was radioactive.
Right, that glow is an observation. It's a quantum measurement in a way. So, so I present this Geiger counter and look at the paradox. I, according to the materialist, is nothing but quantum possibilities, right? Because the brain, the body, they're all made of atoms and molecules and elementary particles, and they're all quantum possibilities. So a possibility is looking at a Geiger counter, which is also made of atoms and molecules, and therefore quantum possibility. And with this Geiger counter, we are trying to amplify the possibility waves that we call electron. So possibility coupled to possibility coupled to possibility gives you only possibility, never any actuality. This is the paradox. This is called the quantum measurement problem. How do we measure that? On top of it, a mathematician named John von Neumann, he proved a Finnish theorem. The theorem is that no material interactions can ever convert a wave of possibility into a particle of actuality. Hear this again. No material force can ever convert a wave of possibility into anything that is concrete as a particle. So how do these subtle objects, waves of possibility, become concrete objects like a particle that we can call an electron, photon, a neutron, and all this stuff, including atoms, molecules, us, all this stuff? How do we create the gross out of these elementary particles, which are waves of possibility, subtle objects of consciousness? This is the quantum measurement problem. So it has to be something extra-physical. You see, right away the proof comes that there has to be non-physical aspects of the world. And this is where we make the break and material forces. So we ascribe consciousness, we say consciousness as that force. I call it downward causation following spiritual traditions because I regard spiritual teachers as the harbingers of this consciousness research. They are the ones who millennia ago discovered such things as we are talking about today and rediscovered under quantum physics. So to honor them, I call it downward causation, as spiritual traditions like Christianity has called them. And the downward causation is exerted by consciousness itself, the whole, the ground of being. We right away then create a new paradigm. And when you ask, what is this consciousness? Is it separate from us? That's where we go beyond the religious perception of consciousness. Religious perception is that it's a dual object. No, our perception in quantum physics, if it's a dual object, we again get a paradox.
So
to avoid the paradox, we must say that consciousness is the ground of being, and it's choosing from its own possibilities to create the object of experience. In other words, we create our experience by our choice. Consciousness is not separate from us. And this is the new worldview that changes everything that we conceive about the human being, what we can do and what we cannot do. All the limitations that you talk about in the beginning that people impose upon themselves goes away when you realize all you have to do is to find that source that you already talked about.
So in your opinion, do you think that we will see a major shift in the consciousness grid within our lifetime?
It is already happening, Peter. Really, I was at a radio show recently, and I was talking a little bit pessimistically. It was about economics, actually. And the host reminded me that, look, Dr. Goswami, if you don't mind, there is much more supporters of this sort of view in today than you are presenting for a moment, and I apologize. I said that, yes, it is true. It is true. Things are changing. Things are changing very rapidly. And, this is the advantage of what we have of the Internet. Internet creates somebody like Donald Trump, but Internet also creates an opportunity to promote worldly change.
It's amazing because, I equate that question with my own personal experience of waking up, one day I'm one way and at the speed of thought, I'm another way. But, 90% of the guests that we have on the MDM show have all had a major wake-up experience. And what's interesting is that it typically happens around 35, when the person is, plus or minus a few years of 35 is when this consciousness shift happens within them. And it's just amazing,
It is amazing. My mind came the first awakening came at 37. But that's about the middle-age transition kind of thing. So it's not completely wrong to say that around the midlife we have some sort of a awakening because we recognize the meaninglessness of the first half of, in terms of just recognizing the basic human circuits that are already present, and we are much driven by those things, Freudian psychology, the instincts of libido and stuff. And then we said, but what is the meaning of all this? And that's when things started happening and the new life kind of emerges before our very eyes.
That's wild. So let's shift focus a little bit. And I want to talk about two books I have in front of me by you. One is called Quantum Economics. Can you tell us about this book, please, and what's contained therein?
Well, economics has been a big issue, not only in the current electoral cycle, but economics has been a big issue since the Great Recession, because all of a sudden we were in this economic catastrophe, which we did not anticipate. So what happens, what is causing this current economic problem, the lack of growth that everybody talks about today, labor problem, people are losing jobs. So what is going on here? What is going on is a change in the capitalism that has been taking place for almost the past 100 years or so, to a very materialistic view of capitalism. And this view has not really helped us in any way, but actually has begun to hurt us, in the sense that it creates huge problems that we did not anticipate. Material resources on the world are finite resources that only we're beginning to appreciate that. But even then, some of the politicians don't recognize it. And in top of it, if you deploy too much of it, you get pollution of the environment, which again, some of us are noticing it, global warming, global climate change, but others are still denying it. What happens on top of it? If you go on and introduce material technologies, and not all of it is bad, some of it is very welcome, like electricity and computers, cell phones even. But where do we stop this? We cannot. And why should we stop it? These are the questions that has to be asked. But the human effect of it has been enormous. Robots are literally taking over human jobs. So what really you hear Donald Trump or the Democratic Party, the joblessness that they talk about is due to trade and all these agreements that we make. But it's not really the complete story. The story really is that machines are taking over all the meaningless jobs. And human beings got to turn, like a midlife transition that we are talking about in our personal life. Human civilization got to have a midlife transition where the human beings no longer can indulge into work that mechanical machines could do, and instead must take up the challenge of finding new occupations for themselves, which consist of meaning, value, this kind of thing. The higher needs have to come into the picture that Maslow talked about in the 60s, but then he forgot it. And these higher needs have to be part of our economic production consumption dynamic. And this is what quantum economics is about. These higher needs are satisfaction of subtle energies, subtle energies of vitality, subtle energies of meaning, subtle energies of spiritual values. These have to be part of the economic equation. So the book has a lot of ideas about how to make vital energy technologies. By the way, in my opinion, what you do with water is an example of vitalization of water. And this is why it tastes a little different. This is why it energizes you, because through your intention, you're creating exactly what I call vitalization of this very absolutely essential commodity that we have. And today, part of the problem of people is that they take water out of the tap and it has lost all of its vital energy. It has no vitality. This is why it's very important to pray, to intend before you drink water.
Or use Aquaware. Use Aquaware. Definitely helps out. So I just had a little bit of a brainstorm when you were talking about machines taking over human jobs. So just bear with me for a second here and think outside the box like you always do. So if God created man, man creates machine, machine becomes sentient, machine redesigns man in its own image, does machine become God?
Well, that's why there is a catch. In the quantum measurement problem, we find that the brain has something that human beings cannot make. Brain has something that cannot be made in the micro making of macro way. In other words, the material objects are made of what is called, we call reductionistic philosophy. And elementary particles make bigger objects called atoms. Atoms make bigger objects on molecules. Molecules make bigger objects called bulk matter. So this reduction means that we can reduce bulk matter to molecules, to atoms, to elementary particles. But this reduction doesn't work for the brain, because brain has what we call a tangled hierarchy. It has machineries in it which has to be created all at the same time. It cannot be reduced to something else. When we make a computer, it's a simple hierarchical computer. It has that circuitry can be reduced all the way to the elementary particles. That will never create the subject aspect of consciousness. It will create only objects of consciousness. So it will always be inanimate. We cannot create sentience or life in a machine. And that's the safeguard that's built into the situation. This is why machines cannot process meaning, machines cannot have a self, cannot have awareness. You can never have a sentient robot. That's a misnomer.
On a level today, yeah, we completely agree with you. But once they get the fundamentals of quantum computing down, you don't think it would be possible that machines can become sentient at some point?
Not not even with quantum computers, they cannot be sentient. That is the consequence of this new science. If somebody can provide a sentient machine, computer, then this new science will be proven wrong. But I don't think that will ever happen. In other words, quantum effects will be used in a computer. They are already used in a computer. A computer could not be made without quantum effects. And quantum effects can be more cleverly used. I'm sure that nanotechnology in some form or other, will create these robots with a lot of wonderful things that they can do, but there never be a subject. There never be an identity of consciousness, that ability that it can represent consciousness. That ability we cannot build. Of course, if we become really so tuned to the universe that we have the power of God, then whether we could do it or not, that's a question you can ask. Could a mystic, well versed in technologies and all that, could the mystic then conceive of a situation where a tangled hierarchical machinery will be created? But I don't think the silicon machinery is just right vehicle for it.
I live in a world where anything is possible. I don't put anything out the pasture, even though it's not conceivable today. So if you're asking me, do I think machines can become sentient at some point with a consciousness? Absolutely. Because in my belief system today, I believe everything has consciousness on some level. Everything.
No, at some level, yes, you're right. But at some level. So the level is object. What I'm saying is that you can make only bigger objects with objects in the laboratory. You can never make subject. Subject requires consciousness itself. And consciousness itself has rules. And depends on what those rules are, Peter. I'm not going to debate you because I don't know the complete rules myself. So
I don't think any of us do. It's really just a matter of conjunction and opinion.
That at this level we don't have that law. Nothing is suggesting that there is a law that overrides quantum physics. And so, at this point we just don't know if anybody ever is going to produce a sentient machine. But at the level that people talk about, at that level it cannot be made. I know that.
Awesome discussion. So I also have another book here in front of me called Creative Quantum. I was wondering if you could touch on that for a minute, please.
Quantum creativity is an idea of how to be creative. Ordinarily, when materialists talk about creativity, they cheat a little bit, but on the whole, they agree that there is nothing but the brain. And therefore, if there is creativity at all, then there must be deep caverns in the brain, memories that we have buried somehow, and only geniuses can bring out this memory and allow you to be creative. So you do some hodgepodge thinking, like we create divergence in our thinking, and then only the genius can bring out these forgotten programs of the brain's computer and dish out, somehow get those programs out to make some new ideas out of old ideas. This is more or less how the materialist creativity works. But of course, human beings don't work that way. Psychologists have figured out for some time, creativity researchers who are mostly psychologists, they have figured out for some time that the Freudian ideas, unconscious actually plays a role, especially when you throw in Jung's idea of collective unconscious, you get these archetypes. They're very useful for creative work. And so this was already there. Now, when I started doing quantum physics, I immediately realized quantum physics has these two levels. The one instantly interconnected level that we recognize, that's the heaven of the mystics, and the earthly level, which is, of course, the level of manifestation. So we have that non-local, that's the quantum word, non-local interconnected domain, which we call domain of potentiality. And then we have this domain of actuality, manifest domain. Domain of potentiality, you can easily recognize as what psychologists call unconscious, because the subject-object split disappears in that domain. Only in the manifest domain do we have it of subject looking at object. So when you recognize this, then you recognize also that unconscious processing must be very important for human creativity. So human creativity is two-level creativity. It's based on quantum thinking. We not only think in the conscious, but also allow the unconscious to come into the picture. And that is what the processing of unconscious, that is called unconscious processing in the creativity literature. I call it do, that's the conscious processing, and be, that's the unconscious processing. When we be, when we are relaxed, when we sleep, we don't have the subject-object split, and in those moments, there is much more proliferation of possibility for meaning and value that can occur, and it is that proliferation of possibility eventually gives us a gestalt, a new gestalt of stuff that I recognize is the solution of the problem. So that's when the quantum leap takes place. We call it a sudden experience, because it's a discontinuous jump in thinking, and what you have as a result is a surprise. Some creativity theorists call it aha experience. And then we manifest this experience, the idea that comes from this experience, into a product that everybody can see and use.
Awesome.
Dr. Goswami, is that your doobie doobie doo?
Yes, that's my doobie doobie doo. In addition to the process that was already talked about in the literature, I discovered from my own experience that it's not really action of do and then you be, like they suggest. You work preparation and then you do unconscious processing. It's not like that. It's really preparation and unconscious processing alternatively. Like do and we do, we do, we do. So that's how that slogan was created.
I like that. Can you share with us a little bit about what your part in what the Bleep Do We Know was, the movie? The part that I had in they did it with all of us separately were interviewed for the movie. The director was very skillful, so he put together from that interview different things at different times, different parts of the movie, and they all appear like a one interwoven thing. But this is all the tricks of the director and the film editor. What we did is just talk about our work. For my part, it was a whole day, like something like 6 to 8 hours it took. And I just talked about my work, basically the whole spectrum of my work, including economics and creativity and basic quantum measurement problem, and how it integrates science and spirituality, and how it applies to healing. I wrote a book called Quantum Doctor. I spoke about that. I spoke about quantum activism, how we can change our society, create a quantum society eventually, where all these different ways that we look at various activities of human beings will be all integrated, and there will be not much boundary between people. All these hierarchies will just go away, and sort of heaven-like existence. So that's what we talked about, and then they took bits and pieces of that and created the wonderful movie. That's an awesome explanation. I'd like to move the show into a quick demo of Aquaware 5 technology. This technology was born on July 4th, 2007. And it's gone through 5 iterations. The 5th is now being created. So we're going to do a live activation utilizing one of the custom intent functions within Aquaware 5. So I'm just going to switch over here quickly. Okay, so for the listening audience, I need everyone to get a glass of water, please. We're bringing up Aquaware 5 quickly. Now there's a lot of stuff going on with the software, but I just really wanted to concentrate on the custom intent sessions. And as a lot of you know, with the debut of Aquaware 4, I gave everyone the ability to actually type in their own intention, thereby allowing you to consciously direct that manifestation of that intention in the water. And how does this really work? So in my belief system, I believe that when Source creates reality, it uses its intention to do so. And when you want to put intention into water, the best way to do it is really by breaking it down into a universal language, which is math or zeros and ones. And when you, so basically what happens is we upload an image, which we're doing now. I'm just going to, I'll grab one of the newer images from athletes, which is kind of neat. Let's see, let's get a really cool one here. Okay, so I think we're going to do a quantum intention for Amit in our listening, because of the show is all about quantum tonight. So we'll write something like open up to be kind of interesting to see how this affects. Now again, folks, this is all running the Aquaware 5 engine. You'll notice that if you're used to Aquaware 4, the panel you're looking at has been completely redesigned. I like using a higher ratio of 81% to do the nucleation. So what's happening here, folks, is for the first time, this intention, open up our hearts and understanding to the great quantum consciousness, gets broken down through 3 proprietary algorithms, okay, 3 levels. And it goes through the formula and it generates a number, okay, and that number is the purest form of your intent that source will understand. So when you consciously direct it into a glass of water next to your computer, a case of water downstairs in a refrigerator, a body of water on the other side of the planet, or a cup of coffee on Mars, that's the most powerful form of the intention that you can get. So here we just click on the save button, and then again, what comes up, you'll notice right down here, these are, this number here is the purest form of your intention that's already been washed through the formula. And we're actually going to be pushing that number into the water. So at this point, you just want to, you know, use your intuition to place a few dots on the screen. And this is where the magic's going to happen. And we're going to nucleate the water. So I'll count backwards, folks. I go 3, 2, 1. And you just put your attention on the water. And again, the intention tonight is open up our hearts and understanding to the great quantum consciousness. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Just put your attention. Water prep is running, the user prep will run, and now we're nucleating it with our intention. Okay, now that's not all, folks. I'd like everyone to go ahead and drink as much of that water as they want. Again, you're going to notice the taste and the texture, and then, of course, where the energy is running down. Now, if we click on the Edit and Delete Session button, we come up with a new panel. This is all of our saved intentions, and we can edit these right on the fly. And not only can we edit them, we can search them. Okay, so this gets really kind of cool very, very quickly. So let's say you've got a couple dozen in here, and you want to search for one of them. As you start to type in your search parameters, it enumerates the deck and very quickly identifies where the intent is. And from here, we can very, very quickly add on to our intent, and it automatically gets auto-saved in the whole 9 yards. Adding another sentence onto it, this can be done. Okay, it's saved, and it's now stored on your computer. You'll also notice that the search functions can be in a carousel mode, so you very quickly move through them. You can have them laid out in a number of different ways. So, of course, this is probably going to change again by the time the final release of 5 comes up, but this is what you can expect. The leap between version 4 and version 5 is quantum. It's huge. It's amazing, all the new features that are going into the software. And of course, this is a very early beta of it. But in the upcoming weeks, I'll be demoing the power of Aquaware 5 much, much more as we move on through it. So again, folks, this is a test run of Aquaware 5. I'd like some feedback on the YouTube video later in the evening on how this particular intent of open up our hearts and understanding to the great quantum consciousness has affected you. Okay, switching back. Donna, do we have questions for Amit from the listening audience?
We have great questions, and I'm real excited to get to them. I want to start with Rachel. Dr. Goswami, she wants to know, do you personally have non-physical beings who you communicate with? And do you think that there are benevolent, subtle energy beings who might be helping us evolve and learn this new paradigm of understanding that we are unlimited?
Well, this is a complex question. On one hand, if I understood correctly, have I personally experienced a non-physical being? Well, yes and no. With non-physical beings, you will never know if you are really perceiving anything or what you are perceiving, because perception itself, of course, has to have, on one hand, something that we see as a subject-object split. And this can be difficult for subtle objects. So what we actually see are called apparitions. They are projections of our consciousness that is made up in the brain already. In other words, that are built from memories that the brain has, on which basis brain projects these things that we see as images. Does that mean, however, that these experiences are meaningless? No, because what we do see is coming on the basis of perhaps a presence. And so how I explain it is that, yes, we can intuit presence, and then if we are very imaginative, we can even project an image, a visual image, or visual seeing something out of the intuitive experience that is really producing it. And this is the basis of things like spirit guides, or people see enlightened masters like Jesus or Buddha. This is the basis of that quantum understanding of it.
Okay, that's awesome. Dr. Goswami, what is Christ consciousness?
Well, Christ consciousness in the quantum view is the Holy Spirit consciousness. Christ was one of the few very enlightened, super enlightened being whose identity more or less shifted to the Holy Spirit identity. This is why repeatedly he goes into that mode where he says that, I am, you can only reach God through me and all this. This is exactly what the Holy Spirit consciousness would do. I am the truth. I am the entire existence. This is the kind of statement they would make. So, and his capacity of miracles happening around him all suggests that Christ consciousness was as potent as we can get in manifestation, which is the Holy Spirit consciousness. But the mistake we make is that only Christianity has this concept. All spiritual traditions have this concept. Hindus have it. They call it by different names. They call it Atman. Buddhists, although they don't believe in ultimately their self is no self, but this is no self consciousness is a perfect description of the same consciousness that is called Holy Spirit in Christianity. So the mistake we made is that Christianity is, unique. That is not true. Christ consciousness is the same as Buddha consciousness is the same. It is the quantum view.
Did we lose him?
I'm sorry?
Did we lose Dr. Goswami?
No, he's here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay, I got a little a blank through there. And this is my question. This is a question for me about love, because I'm all about the love. So how do we bring more love, Dr. Goswami, into consciousness? I mean, is there a way, and do you have a book coming up that talks about love?
Yeah. Yeah, you mean how do I bring love
into consciousness? How do we generally?
Well, love is a very complex story, Donna. I am actually writing a book on it, the science of quantum love. Love begins at a very crude level. The sexuality is our first introduction to what we call romantic love. But love, the scope of love is enormous. It goes way beyond that into agape and maybe even beyond that. What I have discovered is that there is actually a second aspect of Christ consciousness that I didn't go into, but now I'll express it. Have you seen the picture of Heart of Christ? And it shows a heart chakra which is like blossomed into lotuses and stuff. So these spiritual traditions talk about this heart stuff. Ramana Maharshi, an Indian sage, he talked about it. Many other spiritual masters also talk about this self located at the heart. Now, when we analyze it in the quantum way, at first sight it seems like this is impossible. But actually, when you look at the details, then it appears that yes, it's quite possible. But we have to be much more incisive and subtle to find it, because it's in the vital world of our body rather than the material world of our existence. And this vital self at the heart, if we can awaken that, then we find a level of love which is most special, that Christ had and a few of the enlightened people had, that maybe not even regular enlightenment does not lead us to that level of love. So love has enormous scope, and the benefits is enormous. In this book, I'll show that if you love, you can never have cancer, probably. I cannot prove it for all types of cancer, but many types of cancer is because of the immune system malfunction.
Wow.
Your immune system never can malfunction. This new science is enabling us to prove that, and there is already some data that it may be so.
I don't know if love. I believe love is a component of that, but not all of it. I truly believe a lot of it has to do with raising the vibration of the physical body above the point where the cancer can exist. So, for example, if you take a healthy human body, right, and we rate that as a milestone of 10, and let's say a body that has cancer in it vibrates at around a 4 or a 5, and a normal healthy human is a 7 or an 8. So you have a physical body that's vibrating in the cancer zone of 5, but they love their children and they have love coming into their life, which is a great aspect of it. But if you were to raise the vibration of the body above the cancer overnight, so now that person that was in the cancer zone of 5 is now at a 7 or an 8 the next morning, and the cancer is gone. From a quantum perspective, did the cancer never exist in the body, or did it just go away?
No, it existed all right. But the language you are using is slightly different from my language. But actually, it's not all that different. What we call the low vibrations are the low chakras in the new science language, and using an old language actually from the East. But these are called the low chakras are the what you call low vibration, and the higher chakras, starting with the heart, are the higher vibrations in your language. So what happens indeed is we are pretty close to describing correctly. So if we have the awakening of love, then the energy will rise to the higher chakras, and eventually the self of the heart can be awakened. When that is awakened, then we can feel these energies directly in our body, and that's the thing that people don't usually have. They do not feel these energies, this higher vibration energy that you call, in their body. And if we could do that, if we could learn to do that, and the quantum way of looking at it is giving us some idea how to do it. And once we learn to do it, I think we can cancer entirely. Well, everybody would have an experience of quantum healing. That Deepak Chopra's word, a very powerful word, quantum healing. Everybody can have that experience, and it will be a healing experience of awakening the heart kind of thing. So you and I are not that different in terms of the explanation.
Amit, we are at the end of our time together, but a couple things, folks, before we wrap it up. In light of having Amit on the show with us, we are running a show special tonight of 33% off across the product line. Everything in the MDM store is 33% off. If you put something into your basket, the incentive is 3/3 off show. That's good for 48 hours after the show. 3/3 off show. Donna, do we have anything else?
No, I think everyone is buzzing with having Dr. Amit Goswami on our show tonight. I know I am. I just have to say, Dr. Goswami, can we get you back on the show?
Well, thank you so much. I would love that.
Yes, thank you. And I'm excited to hear about your new book. So please keep us posted on that. And of course, folks, you can go to his website. Dr. Goswami, your website is www.amitgoswami.org. Is that correct?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning it.
You're very welcome.
And we get back to everyone that writes to us.
Amit, can you please tell people how they can get in touch with you?
That is the website is the best way. www.amitgoswami, my full name, .org.
Is there anything else you wanted to add to the MDM crowd tonight?
Well, if you like this card, be interested in the integration of science and spirituality. We don't have to be divided and polarized anymore. We really can live a life without any boundaries, and that is a wonderful way to live.
Very well stated. Thank you. Thank you. Really, really appreciate you having you on the MDM show tonight, and definitely looking forward to having you back at some point in the very near future and continuing this mind-blowing conversation with you.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter and Donna.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Good night, everyone.